right, so quickly, today's high impact reading challenge is our revisit to Wire Your Brain for Confidence, The Science of Conquering Self-Doubt by Louisa Jewell. She joined us last year, so there is a video recording of this, which I went back and watched and was super helpful. So there is a video from last year, and I already said that. So we are going to do super quick intros, and then we'll go into our discussion, open it up for comments. We are recording, watch your P's and Q's, and everyone is entitled to their fun. And we do say watch your P's and Q's not only for just like ethical reasons, but if you have expletives in YouTube, you have a different way of posting and it can reduce your views. So we want to make sure that we don't have those included. Again, the suggestion, you all know this, you know the drill, but for people watching, our suggested question topics are overall helpfulness. Is it relevant for your audience, your ability to put the ideas and concepts into action, and how does it maybe compare to similar books? If there was a favorite quote or point made in the book that you like, and just a general thumbs up or thumbs down. And we are an official book club, so you can join as a member for free. We do have an administrator who helps us with things, and we're trying to put money into a fund for first-time authors and literacy projects. So we do ask if you're interested to continue joining or invite others to join, that they can either join for free or join as a supporter, and the $5 goes to those costs. And our sponsors, we appreciate our sponsors. You also get a free t-shirt, which I just found mine. I thought I lost it forever, and I found it jammed between my bed and the wall for some reason. So was happy to find that. So our sponsors are Brass Rings and Lisa Sears, Barb Stone with Build Your Path, Jerry Nolan with Nolan and Maloney, Robin McKenney, and Jody Hatch. We appreciate your support. And let's see. So this is what our funds are going to. Again, we're trying to reach, after we cover our administrative costs, then we'll start putting money into our literacy fund. And our next book for December is going to be Strategic Intuition, The Creative Spark in Human Achievement by William Dugan. I'm super excited for that. And we're going to use our original last Thursday of the month because it falls after Christmas this year. So with that, I'm Laura Thorne. I live in Syracuse, and I'm a business consultant. I've just become an official partner with the Manufacturing Association, which is very exciting, and executive producer of a TV show, writing a book, doing all kinds of fun things. And I'll turn it over to Lisa, the co-host for this group.
I'm Lisa Sears. I am the owner of Brass Rings. I have a couple big foundational clients that I've been working with, and kind of went from helping all people to getting back with helping some financial advisors with practice management. So that's been fun, this going into year end and seeing how terrible financial advisors are at their own planning. So that's been a fun year end project. So that'll do it for me. How about Chad? You're next on my screen.
Oh, okay. Chad Issa. I also live in Syracuse. I am the director of operations of a small millwork company here in Central New York. I am a McKenney member, so I get to see all the fun things that happen in McKenney. We've done quite a few things as far as millwork for prizes for the clam bakes and stuff for McKenney, which is always good because it gives you a little bit of recognition. And so, yeah, and this is my third time in the book club. This is my third meeting already. So that's exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Glad to have you here. Kim, you want to go?
Yeah, I'm Kim Tapley. I am in sunny Tampa, Florida. The high today, though, is, I don't know, 60, so I'm cold. I know that's nothing compared to y'all, but I'm freezing. I work in the environmental regulatory field. I supervise about 11 folks, but we have about 30 on the team. And so this book club is great to not only help me be a leader, but inspire those around me for all these different books that I never would have chosen on my own to read. So I definitely appreciate this group. And I will turn it over to Nicole.
I'm Nicole Simmons. I'm the owner of Relationship Matters, which is a consulting organization that helps mentor, teach, train coach parents, teachers, and professionals, primarily in the Nurtured Heart approach. But I'm actually working on getting trained in some new skills like resiliency and being trauma informed so that I can branch out and really expand the services that I offer to people, because I feel so passionately about helping parents, but also teachers and really just humans survive and thrive. Yeah, so that's me. And I'm grateful for this book club because, like Kim said, I'm reading books I would have never, ever chosen off the shelf, and it's been priceless. So thanks. And I'll turn it over to Jody.
Hi, I'm Jody Hatch. I live north of Syracuse in the Snow Belt, and I am an agricultural consultant, and I've been very quiet for the last 4 months because I needed to be. So I feel like I'm kind of remerging, and I'm glad to be back to engaging my brain. So
Awesome. I'm happy to see you again. I haven't seen you since horseback riding.
I know, right?
Awesome. Well, does anybody want to kick off the conversation with the book?
I think I'll kick it off a little bit just to give a little bit of background on this book. About, gosh, it's probably been like 4 years. I became a consultant and really wanted to help other people. So I found positive psychology certification in Toronto. And so for 6 months, I went up on weekends and learned with a bunch of Canadians who I fell in love with. They're just lovely people. And one of my facilitator was actually Louisa, Jewell. So this book actually came from, I spent 6 months with Louisa. What I found was that positive psychology, I was going through that course to really train other people and really help other people thrive, and really realizing that life can be really good, but it doesn't mean we're thriving and we don't have mind chatter and all the things I thought I was going to help other people with. I learned so much for myself. So I'm so grateful for that course in particular, and Louisa. She is just a great person. Forever grateful for her. I was somebody that had a ton of mind chatter, a lot of confidence, but like bolding through life, like confidence, like a lot of belief, but did not realize how much I really suffered from perfectionism and just so much. I looked back through this book and the dog years and things like that. Cannot believe how much I coach with a lot of these concepts. In particular, Barry and I were talking. Barry's a part of our group, and I just did Mastering Mind Chatter for a group of trusted advisors. So attorney, financial advisors. It was a group of women, and was a little bit nervous about teaching some of these concepts because they all seem so confident. And they're like, oh my gosh, like this is so helpful. There's some, I think when we as professionals, especially when we go into consulting or leadership, we kind of have natural states of confidence and things like that. But what I realize is that we all still need these tools. It's part of our brain wiring. It's a part of the science, and that we can change our brain wiring. So every time I pick up this book, I always feel like, oh my gosh, I've come so far, and I'm like at this plateau of like, yes. And then I pick up the book again and realize how much I still continue to grow. So this book in particular is just kind of a touch point for me. I'm really curious to see what Chad thought of this book, because it is a little bit, she says like this, she wrote this for women in particular, and women and young women as they're coming up. And I've been having great conversations. I did a growth alliance with a group of 20-year-olds and did a lot of this work because I wish somebody had told me about this stuff younger. I felt like it wasn't until I really quit my big job and got into consulting and really focused on myself before I gave myself permission to not be a perfectionist and to like surround. This book for me talks so much about like who we surround ourselves with, and that sometimes we scare the crap out of people. And sometimes I love the parts where like the feedback in particular is sometimes which, you know, people will kind of poke holes in our ideas or our confidence because it scares them a little bit. And I love that, you know, Jody and I talk about that a lot, surrounding yourself with people who you can throw an idea at and they help grow it, as opposed to kind of poking holes in it because they're just not used to a high impact reading challenge, right? So for me, it was a really nice touch point. I loved going back and just looking at my notes. Particular dream big but start small. I think some of this is too how we attack some of our dreams. I find myself like 8 million miles down the road, which can kind of like leave holes in the plan, which can poke a little bit at my confidence along the way. And just a lot of permission in this book to be where I'm at. I'm trying to think of like, I have so many notes. And Jody, I was going back through my dog ear and I was like underlining stuff and being like, talk to Jody about this. It was so funny. Some of the things how I think in particular consultants go through a little bit of imposter syndrome. And when I have a whole coaching program for consultants and coaches that start because I don't think enough of us put that like our experience and our wisdom out in the world because it's hard to package that in consulting. So for me, a lot of this was like just familiar language around just telling people you probably already have all the skills to do the thing that you want to teach other people. I think it's so important for us. I mean, continue to learn and grow and read. But when it comes to helping people, I didn't always have the confidence that I do now to just create some space, start talking, and it comes kind of out of you. And I think it's a good reminder that if we kind of practice this stuff and put some of that stuff aside, kind of our unique brilliance can kind of be shared with the world. And I end up just helping people when I'm more confident. And also loving the cycle of our brains that once we like practice that, like small wins, bigger wins, like that was always like trying to teach people like you can start small with some of these things. And then like get your brain used to like, I can do this. I am good at this. Practicing that self-talk has always been really important to me as well. So I use this book. I just kind of wanted to throw the intro out there because if you're interested, this has a lot to do with positive psychology. So I really recommend people really looking at positive psychology. If you're struggling at all with kind of the mental part of your game and want to get better at it, there's tons of real science behind how we engage with other people. And it's just been a wonderful journey for me. I sleep better now, have more confidence. I actually took some vacation, which I haven't done in a while, and just said, it's going to be okay. And I think that overall, I love that in this book is like, it's going to be okay. Just go for it. So it's kind of how my overstretching. I'm so curious what other people, I know Kim's read it, Laura's read it, and Jody read it last time around. So I'm really curious to see kind of Chad and Nicole's take on this book as well.
Okay.
Boom.
So
That's your cue.
yeah, it's my cue. So it's funny because you start reading a book and I hate reading. Right. I much
to listen.
Right. So I listened to most of the next book. I had to drive down to New York City yesterday and back. So I listened to most of the next book yesterday. So if I get screwed up, it's because I just listened to another book in between reading a book. Right. So, but a lot of times I get very bored with reading a book early because it just doesn't interest me. Right. I can listen to it because I can do other stuff and I can absorb a lot of it by listening to it. But this is one of those books that I dedicated an hour, a night to reading, and I made it got exciting to me to go sit down and read for an hour, which is nice. I like a book that is like that. And when I'm sitting there, my daughter's looking at me going, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, this is a book you really need to read." And she goes, "I don't like to read." I said, "No, I understand, but this is a book you really need to read." And getting back to the preface of it, being that this is designed for women, and that's how the book was written. I didn't believe that once I started reading it, right? Because it does relate. And I did get and understand that, men do think things differently, and men do act differently, and maybe have a little bit more self-confidence and self-assurance, but I don't believe that to always be true, because I believe you can let your head get in the way of a lot of things. And a lot of the books I've read over the past couple of years have all been about, getting out of your own head. And this one was very good because it breaks it down a little bit differently than some of the other books I've read. And that's what I liked about it, is that being able to do that, right? And this is one of those books that I'll go back and look at and say, okay, what do I need to do for self-confidence, right? And how do I review that, right? Because the only thing I haven't done with the book yet is do the examples, right? So the back of every chapter is this little exercise you got to do. And I'm like, well, I need to do these, but I'm not going to do them right now. I'll do them later, right? Which is, again, something you're not supposed to do. I'm procrastinating the obvious, right? So I'm obviously procrastinating in a process that I'm not supposed to procrastinate in, because that's the whole point of the book. But I wanted to get through the book, so that was part of it. But so I see a lot of opportunity inside the book for me, for my wife, for my daughter, that, and even for my sons, that I think that this is one of those books you say, hey, this is just a book we all should read and just talk about, right? Because the thing I've been doing with my family, with my kids, with my wife forever, is making them confident about themselves, and making sure that they work hard for themselves. And I think this book really brings a lot of that out. And it reminds you to remember yourself, right? And that's what I get out of a lot of these types of books, is reminds you to remember yourself, and don't let things get in the way of remembering yourself, right? First. And so to me, that's what I got. Overview of the book. There's a lot of little things that I highlighted, a lot of statements, and I don't have my book with me. I left it at home, so I'm really mad at myself. Just to read the lines that I really, really liked. So, but that is my perspective on the book.
Awesome. I think that's great. So did your daughter read the book?
No, not yet. She just got home. She came home from Boston Sunday, and she's home for the week, and I'll probably send it with her when she leaves. Yeah.
I do like the exercises in the back of each chapter, because it's almost like I can sit down with my daughter and be like, we're going to do this exercise together, without even like giving her all the things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it might be, I drive my kids nuts. I'm always like, now we're going to do this. And they're like, oh, it's Thanksgiving dinner. Do we have to? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, my kids won't fly with that. If my wife says we're doing it, then it happens. I got no authority in the building, also. Like I said earlier, Laura, I just show up, right? Yeah.
That's great. Well, I think it's awesome that you took the time to read it and actually enjoyed the process of doing it. So that's great.
Yeah.
Nicole, how about you? Oh, sorry. Jody, you want to go?
Oh, go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in. I did not read the book again. So when I use the word emerging, like literally in the last week is when I've started to emerge. And it's really funny that that Chad, you said this was really about getting out of your head. And that for me has been the challenge for the last few months. And I've kind of come to the conclusion, and it's probably in there somewhere, when I get in that not great headspace, I've kind of been asking myself, where is that really coming from? Is it me? Is it something I need to sit with and go through? Why am I having this, whatever emotional response there is to whatever the situation is, like, where is that coming from? And I'm finding a lot that it has to do with boundaries for myself. And that when I get a little bit like, I have a phrase, Lisa knows what it is. I won't use it on here, but it's the more or less, are you kidding me? With some other words in it. And then I step back and say, okay, where is that coming from? If that triggered such an emotional response for me, why is that? And each time it has come to boundaries that I haven't set for myself, right? That keep me in my confident space. And so I've allowed other things you know, and I'm always open. So I want to, if somebody questions me, I'm like, okay, I want to think about that. Where is that coming from? You know, I had a couple people say, leave your ego at the door like 2 weeks ago. And I had to call Lisa on speed dial. I was like, ego? Are you kidding me? I'm like super humble, but it took me a couple of days to move through that because it really rocked my confidence. I thought, why would they be thinking that? And it wasn't the situation. Was it them talking? And so there just was a lot there's just been a lot in my transition since April, to be quiet and really reflective on the things that put me in this transition, if you will. So, you know, it's probably time for me to emerge the book out of the box on my shelf or wherever it is right now, because I redid my office again, and go through it and probably work through some of those exercises. Because confidence, when you don't have it, you go into hibernation for a while.
So true. I think when you lack confidence, it bleeds into fears popping up and stopping you from doing things.
And it affects a lot of other areas, not just your work. You really start to question, you know, if you've ever looked at the wheel of life or whatever they do in a lot of, you know, is your marriage good? Is your physical health good? Is your mental state good? Is your work good? Is your this? I'm like, oh my God, it's all wrong. Because one piece was out of balance. And how do you shift? How do you step back and say, okay, you know what, that I gotta, it goes back to the other book we read, which, you know, you can't give 100% in everything all the time, right? Like I gotta be okay with a 6 right now in this area because I'm working on something else that's a 2 that I need to get to a 6. You know, so but allowing yourself, I would say even the space and the love to say, okay, I'm okay where I'm at.
Right.
Because that's confidence.
Yeah, that was.
You might not think I'm okay where I'm at, but I'm okay where I'm at.
That was the big leap, right? Where you had to, you know, your confidence. Yeah, you know, the life wheel and the business wheel are, you know, they're so similar in so many ways, right? And for me, that, you know, I let a lot of things just brush off of me, and a lot of people wonder how I can. I don't know how I can or why I can, but you know, when I speak to my wife and she can't, you know, and we have to balance things that way, and that's why I look at these books as so good, because for me it's easy. You know, nothing gets me unless someone criticizes me, and then I take the breath and I think about why they're criticizing, and but you know, for me, I you know, I look at these as great opportunities to help others, right? Because it allows me to think, because before this I just wouldn't, right? Before I started reading books like this, I wouldn't think about it, and I would just react to people and think, why don't you think like me? And you know, these help you to realize that people do think differently, right? You know, Jody, for you to, you know, close yourself down for, you know, a few months to say, I need to reboot, is a really great thing. And, you know, it's what you need to do sometimes, and how you do it is important, right? And I, you know, 5 years ago would have never said that to anyone. Oh yeah, go reboot. That's a great thing to do. I would have never said that because it wasn't my mindset, right?
Right.
And I, you know, I appreciate these types of books and these types of book clubs, because it helps me to, in my own way, reboot, right? These help me reboot because I think for, you know, an hour once a month, I hear other people's perspective. I think about the book, and I'm like, oh, I get it, right? I drove my wife crazy for 29 years and now I understand. Right.
I think that's something too that Lisa, when she was talking, you know, we talk about this a lot. You know, I work remotely. I have no neighbors. Okay. I'm up in no man's land, which is great. I love it. But to connect with other people who, when I say throw up on people, like verbal, right? You're like, I have this idea and this idea, and some people can't hold space for that. Right. So to find your tribe and to have a group of people that you can go to and be like, I mean, there's often I've called, hey, I need an advisory board who's available at such and such a time, because there's something I got to talk through that I can't talk to my girlfriend about, or, you know, I need some other thinkers or some other people to help say, give me some perspective. And that helps my confidence. You know, so finding that group of people like this, where you can be like, you know, how are you handling this? instead of you're wrong. Or what are you thinking? Or why do you even care? You know, because that you're just reframing it differently.
Yeah, Chad, I had that magic moment when I figured out not everybody thought the same way. I think we all have that like moment in life where like, wait, what? Oh, wonder. And why aren't you thinking like me?
Right. Yeah. You know. Yeah.
But I wanted to touch on what Jody was saying, because a lot of what I wrote in this book was about finding your tribe and like the things people say to us. I think Jody is great about saying to me, am I not doing this because it's not right? Or do I have fear around it? Like, she's always curious. So she's always going to try to push through her confidence and make good decisions. I think that's tricky. Like, because I think if you can have too much confidence and just do everything, I think that can come into play. But when Jody called me about ego, I was like, oh my gosh, no, you're setting boundaries. And it's really hard when you set boundaries for people. They're going to tell you have ego, or like it is hard for them, or they're used to you behaving this way. And all of a sudden you've changed like they're used to this. Yes. And I think that is like, it breaks kind of, they will say things that will try to nick away at your confidence, because then they get what they want. So I'm always proud of you when somebody tells you it's your ego. You don't have ego. You're pretty,
Thank you.
you're pretty great. But it is curious. It talks in this book about like other people's behavior when we change ours. It's pretty interesting.
All your guys' perspectives. I'm curious to hear Nicole's new perspective on the book.
Oh my gosh, I love this book so much. This was so great. And I'm not gonna lie, when I read it, like the cover, and I saw the brain, I was like, oh my gosh, is this gonna like hurt my
Lisa
head?
did another one of those books, right?
Yes,
My
exactly.
last science book.
Yes. And I was like, okay, it'll be all right. And then I started reading and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. And I have to say, I finished The Big Leap like 11 days ago. So yes, after book club meeting. And then I like had to set a plan. I'm like, okay, I've got 10 days before book club, this many pages. You got to read 23 pages. You got this, girl. And I literally finished 1 minute before noon today. And I was so proud of myself. I was like, yes, I did it. But this, oh my gosh, this was so great. I agree with Chad. Same thing with the exercises at the end. They're fantastic. And I didn't do them yet. The power of yet, right? I'm going to do them because they all seemed very doable. We've read other books that had exercises that kind of overwhelm me. I'm like, oh my God, this is like hours worth of, whatever. But these all seem really doable and they make sense. And I love, Lisa, that you sit down with your kids and you're like, hey, we're going to do this extra, or your daughter. I might be roping my daughter into some of this too. But actually, I'm going away this week coming up. I rented myself a condo in Ocean City, Maryland, all by myself. And so I'm going to bring my book and I'm going to do exercises and it's just going to be all kinds of awesomeness. So I'm going to do the exercises. I'm just saying that out loud to manifest that. There was so much in this book that I loved. The power of yet just reinforces what I've already been preaching to my daughter. So as soon as I got to that part, I sent her a little screenshot. And I said, look what I just saw in this book I'm reading right now. Because anytime she says, I can't do that, or I'm not good at that, or I'm not, and I'm like, yet. And she's like, oh God, Mom. And I'm like, dude, it's all about your brain, man, and what you tell yourself. And our thoughts are so powerful. And we believe ourselves no matter what we tell ourselves, whether it's good stuff or crappy stuff. So I love that. The part about rumination was like, holy cow, because it just brought me back to my younger years and my college years. And I thought about how much rumination I did and how detrimental it was. And I was like, whoa. So it was really, I loved reading all about that because I'm going to really try to make sure my daughter doesn't end up down that path of just spinning stuff. I love the part about negativity bias. My friend had talked to me about that. And that was the first time I'd heard about it. And then when I saw it in the book, I'm like, oh, look at that. I thought that was really interesting. And it will help me in the work that I do, because one of the aspects of the nurtured heart approach is about not giving energy to negativity, which sounds so simple when you say it, like, oh yeah, of course, you don't give energy to negativity. Yeah, well, that's really hard when we all have that negativity bias and we see negativity in bigger ways. And so I appreciated that little bit of just extra stuff that I can use in my work. And the only other thing I wanted to, I guess, pose to the group is, how do I find a mastermind group? Because that was one of her suggestions. And my sister's been a part of one before and she says they're great. And I don't even know, like, do I Google mastermind group? I mean, I don't even know. How do you find one? How do you make one? I don't want to make one. I want to just join one. Why are you laughing at me, Lisa?
Did we talk about, we probably went through this last year. I didn't watch till the very, very end of last year's video, but I feel I'm having a bit of deja vu. Like we talked about doing these exercises or something at the end.
Oh, so Nicole, one of the things I will offer you is that I teach, it's probably a half an hour, maybe even less of content on worry, fear, and rumination. And I'll share those slides with you so that you can share them with people that you're working with. It's got a lot of, I pulled the coaching, there's coaching actions and coaching questions from positive psychology. So I pulled them into a little thing. Jody's laughing too, because I was doing Women's Growth Alliance and Jody was part of the Growth Alliance, which is a mastermind. I just call it a Growth Alliance. And we keep saying, she and I want to do one next year. So we do it around positive psychology and it's usually like 8 to 10 women. So Jody, intention set, we have to do it because Nicole wants to do it.
And it's being recorded. So like anyone,
we have to
put it out there. Okay. Yay.
Yeah. But I would say, fine, like keep asking around locally. I've been a part of a couple masterminds that are bigger, like more technical, driving some stuff to implementation. Those have been great. But if you're looking for some like discussion, I'm sure the network within here, we can find some other people that might want to get together and just have some of those discussions. So I'll give you information about apparently the Growth Alliance we're doing next year, Joe.
The apparently Growth Alliance. I love it.
Well, and I think what I've enjoyed with some mastermind is really having somebody lead it that's intentional about who they choose in the group. So there's commonality, there's some stuff. If I've taught worry and fear to people like to women in finance, and there's like half of them are like, oh, I don't have that. And so it's different when you say, do you have worry and fear? And the people come, right? So you just want to have somebody a little bit more intentional too. But more, we'll get you some more information on that. I did want to mention like torturing my children. I read on the way here, The Dream Manager. So I'm going to nominate that book for next year. I was doing some year-end reviews for a group. And I always put personal goals in there. And I thought, what would happen if I shifted my language to dreaming? And then I'm driving with my son this morning and I was like, so tell me about your dreams. And he's like, here we go again. But I mean, it is fun to take these books to your kids. It really talking about a lot of these concepts. I love that. I just really appreciate, Chad, that you are like somebody that wants to learn on behalf of other people, especially the women in your life. We really appreciate that.
There's those signals in life that you need to change or improve. And, I got that signal about 5 years ago, and I think I've been doing everything in my power to fix that. That's why I reached out to Laura to begin with, right? It was just another opportunity to get another perspective on how to do things, right? I find myself as a role model, and Laura's name came out, and I said, I'm going to reach out and figure out if, there's a connection that we can, selfishly help myself, right?
Yeah, super glad we have this avenue to keep connecting. But I would like to bring Kim into the conversation before we run out of time.
Well, I can't find my book, which probably means I loaned it to someone, because I'm all about sharing our information that we learn here with these books. So I know it's early for a New Year's resolution, but I'm going to resolve not to give people my books and just buy them their own copy. but I did reread my notes from last year, and I just wanted to read one section of notes because I think it's really impactful for me, and then what I try and teach folks where I'm at. Setbacks will also affect our motivation to move forward. We have to make our self-worth, self-esteem not affected by failures. Feel good about yourself no matter what, and focus on how you will get better at task. And that is so important, I think, for anything that we do, to use that positive psychology every day, no matter what. And one tool that I have used to implement that is people sometimes will come to me and they'll say, well, I don't want to do X, Y, and Z because what if it doesn't work? Or what if it fails? And to help build their self-confidence, it's to just set them up that it's okay to fail. So you call it something else, call it a beta test. Say, well, why don't you just run with it and test it out? See if it works. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, well, then you learned a lesson. And out of the whole book, I mean, I loved the whole book and I loved talking with the author last year, but that was one of my big takeaways is it's okay to fail, and it's okay to teach people that it's okay to fail. You don't have to be perfect all the time. Just call it something else, a test, you know?
Yeah, I can appreciate
I like
that.
pilot program. I'm always like, let's do a pilot.
She
Yeah,
talks about that, right? She said that. And yeah, and I thought, oh, that is brilliant. I could literally feel my brain shift when I thought about it like that. Like, I could do that. I can pilot, because then everybody knows that it's just a test run. Like I don't have everything figured out. Brilliant.
I think it's funny that we use the term even failure when you're not supposed to know how to do it yet anyway.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so why does it have to be right? I'm doing the same thing with my older son who's in high school, and he's has a lot of potential and is being pushed in two different areas, and he's so resistant. And I swear it's because of confidence, because he's afraid. I know he wants it, but he's afraid if he goes after it and he doesn't get it, he's going to be crushed. He hasn't verbally said it, but I'm figuring out. And I'm like, how do you move through that? Because I can't motivate him. Right? He's got to motivate himself, and he's got to choose that to go through it when it's not a failure. You're just learning how to do it.
I think the big misconception is everybody thinks that right out of the box, they're supposed to be perfect. And for whatever reason, that's the society that a lot of folks have been raised around, and that's how they've learned. And for me, I just try and create that environment that it's okay, you're not perfect, everyone's learning, and some of our best learning experiences come from these pilot programs or beta testing, or that sort of thing.
But Jody, what were we saying? We kept saying try, assess, modify. Just keep doing
assess, modify, repeat.
Yeah.
Oh, those are mine.
Just keep going.
I find myself telling my mentees that, and the people that I'm coaching, especially in the career space, two things. And one is that it's the thing you're going after, it doesn't have to come out the way you want it to. So even if your failure isn't failure, it's just like, it's not the right path for you, or it's not, something else is going to come out of it. So if you're afraid to apply for a certain degree or get in a certain college or apply for a certain job because you're not going to get it, so you don't apply for it. But something else, you might meet a person or you might learn about something, like it might just be an avenue towards something else. So it looks like failure when you look at it closely, but in the bigger picture and in hindsight, it was just a stepping stone to the next thing. And then the other thing I try people just to, if you learned from it, it's not a failure, no matter how, like if you learned that this was not the right college for you, or you didn't write a good enough essay, or you didn't put in enough work to make it happen, then you learned the next time you try again, or you learn that maybe you didn't even like it to begin with. People get really stuck on like, I have to do this thing, and then they get it and they're like, I don't like this. I have a best friend who I was envious of forever because she knew all through high school, I'm going to do this when I graduate. this is my career. And she got her master's degree, hated it. like, so what is success? Getting that degree because that was your goal, but then, or would it have been more successful to learn along the way and have pivoted once or twice and gotten something that she liked? So it's all just like personal perspective, and I think we're more afraid of what it looks like to other people than ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's just unfortunate for kids that the images out there are of success, right? Even TikTok, these people doing these dances, and they do them so well, right? They never show you how long it took them to get to that point, right? And no one's ever saying that, and I think that we all forget that at some point, right? That it does take a lot of practice to get where you are, right? Everything takes practice, speaking to yourself, visualizing every day, all those things take practice. And we're in a society where you don't have time for practice. People don't allow practice, and people can't accept practice for themselves, which is unfortunate, right? And kids are the hardest because they're so influenced by everything around them, right? The kids that get it, are the ones that are really good at a sport, or they get how to do math, and they really like to practice it. It's teaching kids to practice is so hard.
Well, it's work.
Yeah.
It's work, and it's hard, and you don't want to do it. We're all,
Yeah, it's practice. Everything comes down to practice. It comes down to mentally telling yourself that I have to practice. You have to mentally remind yourself that you have to take a breath before you make a comment, right? You have to mentally prepare yourself for the engagement you have to make and who that's with, right?
You also have to learn what things you need to do to support yourself.
Right.
So like my son is a swimmer, and he has a particular goal for something he wants to beat a time. I'm like, okay, well, what is your nutrition like? Did you talk to the coach? Like, what's the breakdown and the steps that you need to go in that direction?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we just think, we're supposed to be, like you said, all of a sudden we're just successful.
Right. Yeah. And, that again, I think, I just think that we just have to remind, ourselves of that, right? Every week I tell myself this is the week I'm going to start my diet, and then I buy my 2 Pepsis and my cookies on my way to work. So, so we all have them, right? We all have these things that we just, just know our.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Well, I think too, we need to remind ourselves the importance of baby steps. So maybe you just get 1 Pepsi and 1 cookie, Chad.
Yeah, but then you get another one at work.
That doesn't work. You're an all or nothing kind of guy.
I'll just buy another one when I get to work, so it doesn't matter.
Look at you. You're so self-aware and insightful. I love that. That's a great trait to have. Oy. So much to teach our children.
Lisa, show me that cute puppy.
Oh my gosh, she's trouble.
She is the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
I know, but she's like, my son has 2 white pit bulls. They're gorgeous and sweet, and they're trying to sleep, and she's jumping on them. I'm like, oh my gosh, and my dog's snoring over here. I'm like, oh, but yeah, she's like a pit bull Rottweiler. She's sweet, but she's a lot. I forget puppies.
She's learning.
Little Rascals puppy.
Or the Target dog, right? She kind of looks like the Target dog.
The Target dog, or like the Little Rascals.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's sweet. But
all
her
right,
sister and brother don't appreciate
left. If anybody wants to do any last minute comments, otherwise we'll talk about next week's book.
I'm recommending this for next year. We're going for 3 years in a row.
Oh, wait, wasn't she writing another book? When she met with us last week, she was working on one.
Lisa knows.
She is. She is. And right now, so Louisa went and gotta think, did she go to the Netherlands? So her ex-husband passed away, and she's been doing well with her kids and stuff, but it was kind of, I think, a moment for her. And I'm so proud she went for at least a couple weeks to the Netherlands, and now she's in Switzerland, but I know she goes in quiet places when she's writing. So I'm hoping that means that book is coming. So I'm going to follow up and just tell her that, another year that everybody really enjoyed her book, and thank her for who she is in my life, and then ask her when her next book is coming out.
Can I send you an email for you to forward to her?
Please, that would be great.
This was so great. I mean, I think I'm gonna just automatically reread this book, which I don't say all the time. So it was so inspiring and so helpful and so practical. I love that it's not talking so broadly that you're like, okay, but how the heck do I do that? Right? She like literally breaks it down. Do this, don't do this. I love that. I need that. So yeah.
Yeah. And she tells stories and then hits the punch at the end. So I think it is one of the books I liked in paper, because I did write on it a lot. Even though I'm like Chad, I like to listen. So there's certain ones I'll listen to and then grab the book. And this is one that had to grab the book and appreciated it.
Well, you couldn't listen to it, so you had to grab it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Kim,
She forced us.
I'm not generous like you, because I write and dog ear and post-it note all of my books. I will not give them to people. I'm like, nope, sorry. I'll buy.
They're like my journals. They're very private. I got a lot in there.
Right. I thought about that too. I was gonna, my bonus daughter said, hey, is there a book you'd like to hand down? And I'm thinking, God, no, I'd have to like look to see what I even write in some of the,
I totally did that with the 4 agreements. I gave it to my dad and then I asked for it back the next day. I was like, can I have that back? Because that's a tough one.
The 4 agreements, I am in kind of a mastermind group separate from, this group. And we meet once a month too. And we have an elected person who teaches for that period, what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to talk about the 4 agreements in one of the meetings. Amazon has those books on sale for like $5.
What?
Yeah.
$49.
Agreements.
I bought all the cards for everyone at CAFL. So I just bought 30 sets of those cards. So I was going to cry if you told me, because they're like $16.
I know the cards are still expensive, but the books were like $5. So I bought
I'm going to order them today.
What is the mini book?
The cards. It's the cards. Have them right here at my desk.
Right there.
I love these cards, but they're so expensive. But they're little little phrases from the book, and little sentences. And I put them on my mirror in the bathroom. I put them on my computer monitor, just like little, things to remember. But they're all from the book.
Yep. That's our Eric and Barry are in that group, and we're gonna read that together. Holy cow.
So is this the book, the $1.49?
That's Kindle.
Okay.
Right? But the hardcover says $5.95 right below it.
Yeah.
But why is it a mini book?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to.
Is it just because it's small?
Yeah. Let me show you what I got.
Oh, she has them. Yeah, because those little books they have like in the bookstores that are like.
Oh, it's still the normal.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah,
this is what I got though, the $5 one. So I bought like 10 of them.
I have to buy 35 of them.
Yeah.
It's great.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Kim, as always. All right.
It says you can get 3 for the price of 2.
Oh my gosh. Winner.
That's it. Turkey dinner.
Next month's book is Strategic Intuition, The Creative Spark in Human Achievement by William Dugan. Discussion on December 30th, last Thursday of the month. So hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday, because it'll be past by then too. Crazy. Literally the end of the year. So appreciate all of you. Thank you for coming and discussing Louisa's book this month. We'll see you soon.
Thanks. Can't wait for next month.
Bye.
Bye.